Good. All right. Good evening. We are in chapter 4. We put the text on the screen. We only got a couple psukim in the last time. PowerPoint does that. I have that. Let's read these first two psukim. This is pasuk or psukim Gimel and Dalet, 3 and 4. Shlomo addressing us individually. And here he takes on an additional, not a twist, but another layer. Kiven ayiti la'avi, I was a son to my father. You might say, well, duh. Rach v'yachid lifnei imi, tender darling of my mother. Vayoreni vayomer li, he instructed me and he taught me. Yitmoch dvarai libecha, let your mind hold on to my words. It's not a good translation. Right, let's see what I have here. I said, let my words sustain your heart. That's much better. Tbicha means support. Shmor mitzvotai v'chyei. Keep my commandments and you will live. Okay, so we have to understand what really is happening over here. What does he mean? I mean, that'd be like saying, I am my father's son. So really, wow, how long did he come to that conclusion? So he's trying to tell us something really important, that he is a link in the chain of Masorah, that like his father before him, etc., all the way back to Sinai, it is a matter of continuing that tradition on, just like his father, and now he's taking on, he's going to have to do and teach his own children as well. So he stands, it's not that he's the origin of wisdom. It's important to understand, people say that, it says that Shlomo is the Chacham Michol Adam, the wisest of all people, but it's not that Chokhmah began with him. He's not the origin of Chokhmah. Well, first of all, Hashem is. As far as humans are concerned, he's also not the origin. He's its heir. You're its heir. I'm its heir. We're the heirs to the throne, so to speak, or the mantle of Chokhmah. Midrash Mishle has Shlomo quoting David that he's basically putting words in his mouth that Torah is an unbroken tradition, unbroken chain that goes from one time to the next time to the next time. Makes it very important. What's the difference between an inheritance and a purchase? We're going to see in the next couple of psukim that uses the term kneh, which means to acquire. What's the difference when a person is a beneficiary of or a recipient of a Yerusha, of an inheritance? There is, generally speaking, unless it's been done as a gift to someone outside the family, it's because there's a zikar, a direct blood connection between the one bestowing it and the one receiving it. It's a direct connection, not just someone brought you a birthday gift from down the block. And that's really important to understand, that this is something that's a little part of the DNA, of the Jewish DNA, that's being transferred to the next person. I've had this discussion with people over the years when it comes to intermarriage, for example. I've had, unfortunately, many situations I've dealt with. And I said, you realize that you have to have pretty broad shoulders. I would say this to a guy who wants to marry a non-Jewish woman, pretty broad shoulders to say that you're willing that all the links for the last 3,300 plus years, you're going to be the link in your family that breaks that chain and your descendants. You're really willing to take that upon yourself. I've never put it exactly in those terms, but the implication is that. So we understand that we are, I forgot exactly where it says, but it says when you learn from your Rebbe, you're learning from his Rebbe, who learned from his Rebbe. We go all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's not like all of a sudden this stuff appears out of thin air. And then he says, Rach v'yachid lifnei imi. It's a very striking, stark kind of statement. The Malbim says it means that when a person is rach, they're impressionable, means soft, impressionable, open. And the yachid is singular in attention, one person. So what's this have to do with transmission of Torah, transmission of Chokhmah? As a person who's taught, thank God, in, I guess, thousands of different classes over the years, there's no comparison teaching a single person versus teaching a class. They're different planets, not even similar. It's a different world completely. When you could teach one-on-one versus teaching a whole class, especially you're talking teens, preteens, It's a very different world. So the second half of the statement, the yachid, is very important. That meant for the proper transmission of the chokhmah, proper transmission of the Torah. If you look at that, your child, if you have one child or you have many, many children, that each one has to get its focus. Each one has to get his or her share. In addition to that, the best time to start working on something like that is when they are rach. When a baby is born, he's known two titles, a baby boy. There's the Rach HaNolad, the soft, impressionable child that was born, and then there's the Rach HaNimol. He's still called Rach, but it's after he's had his brit. And so that word comes up actually quite a bit there. But what is it? What's the implication? Is that it's like a soft piece of material. Now that if I take I don't know, it'd be a good idea, like something foam that has memory, and you press your thumb into it or you sit on it, it keeps that impression as opposed to an old mattress that's just going to, and the springs are going to pop back up at you. So maybe that's not such a great example, but that's what came to my head. Chokhmah does not root itself in a crowded heart. What is that? This is Malbim. What does that mean? It's a nice phrase. I translated in English. What does it mean? That, again, let's go back to the idea of a classroom versus an individual child. I say like this, and I think it's true. The percentages are not necessarily accurate, but in general, I would say if there's a class of 25, 30 kids, I don't think I've ever taught a class more than 25, and even that's way too many. And I know that here the class sizes are definitely bigger than that. In some cases, I was zocha to have relatively smaller classes, but I was there for a long run-on sentence. When you have a class of 25 kids, 25, 30 kids, 10% are going to understand what you say the first time. 10% won't understand it the 30th time you say it. And then you have all the kids in the middle that are going to be struggling with, okay, I do it. Can I explain it? How can you change it? So what ends up happening is you have neshira, you have like this fall off. The guys who got it right away, or girls, I've taught both, they're bored. The ones who have no clue what's going on, they're bored. Now you're left with the group in the middle that you're trying to hold on to. Compare that to taking a student one-on-one, you're taking the same material. I'll give you a good example. I have, for the first time I've ever done this, I've been teaching for a long time. I've never taught privately two students at the same time. I've tried it. It doesn't work. I happen to be doing it now with a couple of boys. It's actually working very well because they play well off of each other. So I always like to ask the students when we're learning, if it's not reviewing something done in school, but we're moving ahead, how far ahead are we? So this two boys, I don't know who this teacher is that they have, but he probably should go through a little bit of training on classroom management and teaching and speaking and whatever else. We are, here, I'll give you an example. I have it right here. Here's a page of Gemara, okay? So the page before this, they've done about that much, about half the page. We've done the whole page, and we're down to here. So, and they won't even get up to where we are probably till Pesach time. Probably not even then. Why? It's because I'm such a good teacher. It has nothing to do with my being a good teacher or not a good teacher. It has to do with the fact that I'm not being interrupted constantly with, sit down, put your books away, stop doing this. What do you mean you have to go to the bathroom? You just came back from the bathroom, blah, 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 blah. And it's the same thing with your own kids. People have asked me over the years, by the way, this is no digression. This is exactly this pasuk here. People have asked me over the years, do you think it's a good idea for a person, a father, to teach his own child the lane, to create the Torah? So I said, I'm not a big fan of it. First of all, I've stopped teaching bar mitzvahs already. I started teaching when I was 16 and been teaching. I've taught many, many, many dozens and dozens and dozens of bar mitzvahs over the years. And I gave it up about 2-3 years ago because first of all, it's very boring. It is, tachlis. And also it's a lot of pressure for the kid. And I'm very careful how I work with the families, how much they do, they don't do. Anyways, so where was I even going with this? Talking about teaching a single kid. Is it a good idea to teach your child? So I said, not necessarily. And I'll tell you why. I'm talking about specifically Kriyat Torah. So a kid's going to have a bar mitzvah, let's say 8 months from now, and he decides he's going to do 2 aliyot, 7 aliyot. The first, there's no requirement whatsoever to do anything. The only chiyuv was to get an aliyah. That's it. Until my generation was starting to have bar mitzvahs, the generation before us, They didn't do any laning. They maybe maftin haftorah, or they just went to shul and got an aliyah, and that was their bar mitzvah. Somehow, all of a sudden, pressure came in. They have to do the whole parsha, and it's a tremendous amount of. And the one guy in the class who doesn't do his parsha, oh, he's an outcast. He doesn't. He's a nebel. He doesn't know how to lane. He can't do it. So I'm a very big proponent of you. If the kid doesn't look like they can do a whole parsha, and you can tell that pretty quickly. So I start with Shvi'i, the last aliyah, and then I work my way backwards, because the psychological reason is I'd rather a child get up in the middle and finish than do halfway and sit down. It means I got to here and I couldn't finish. So anyways, so you get, when you teach, you get a certain method and how you do certain things and the speed you have to go. When you have your father teaching you for bar mitzvah, so Dad, I'm really tired. Can we just do this tomorrow, please? As opposed to, oh wait, you got Rav Zev now. It's 6 o'clock. You got to get to him now. Let's just say cause tension between father and son. It can be kind of hairy sometimes. I was so to have my father teach me, and it was tension sometimes, and he was very demanding. That's how I learned how to lane, not just the tamim, but how to proper pronunciation of words and proper milrad, shvanan, shvanach, and all that, which is great. And we got and it went very well, but I'm still not a proponent for it. So that's why that's this idea of where it says here yachid. You have to individual intention and individualized instruction. You have a person who has multiple children or is responsible for teaching multiple children or adults. Each one chanoch l'narapi darko. We're going to talk about that pasuk eventually. But chanoch l'narapi darko means you teach the student based on his way. Meaning, how does he learn? How does he process? How does he retain? So that's what these two words, rach v'yachid, which the Malbim talks about, I'm just kind of just expanding on what he was saying. And then what he says is, Vayomerli, and he said to me, this is Shlomo HaMelech talking about his father David. He said to me, Yitmoch dvarai libecha, that my words support your heart. Shemor mitzotai v'chyei. So what does that mean? And keep my commandments and you will live. So what does that mean? It says, let my words support your heart. The heart, when it comes to Tanakh, most of the time, is not talking about emotion. We usually refer to the heart as the seat of emotion. If you remember Tanya, if you learn Tanya, you know that it has the two parts to the heart and the left side, the right side, and the different nishamot, let's say, that occupy the space. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the heart being the seat of emotion. But in Tanakh, very often, it's not just that it's the seat of emotion. It also is the seat of our identity, of our ratzon, our will, our desires in this world. And the Torah then becomes the structure to help that person stay on the straight and narrow. So it says that a person who does listen to and follows the Masorah, the tradition from one generation to the next, and incorporates and inculcates that chokhmah, that Torah itself will allow that person or that heart of that person to have structure. It's kind of like saying, I love books, by the way. I love books. I love Svardim. Svardim come first, books come second. And I go sometimes, not as often as I want to or should, but I go to Yeshivat Birkat Moshe to learn. And sometimes I go with a very specific agenda, and I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z today. And sometimes I say, I'm going to see where my heart takes me. And I kind of wander around looking to Svardim in the library or the big midrash. And like, I kind of get to the point like, okay, I want to start. No, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm going to do this. No. And I see I need to have structure. I have to have a plan when I walk in there. So this way I'm more focused and I make better use of the time. It's the same idea here. You can get bombarded from all different ways, from your parent, from your teacher, from your spouse, from your child, from your next door neighbor. But there has to be a structure. And that structure that you have to litmoch libecha, that will support your heart, is proper chokhmah, which we've already discussed multiple ideas already of what that really means. The promise is pretty straightforward. Shmor mitzotai v'chyei. Keep my Torah and you live. Torah is not advice for life. It is life. This is a theme that's playing over and over. It's a theme that plays over and over in Sefer Mishle. Let's take a look at the next couple psukim. Knei chokhmah, knei vina. Acquire wisdom, acquire discernment. Remember, we talked about bina means lahavin davar mitoch davar, or to understand one thing from another. As an example, how was your day in school? Or how was your day at work? It was okay. Well, was it okay? No, because you can tell from the inflection the way that it wasn't. So you understood something from something else. So acquire wisdom, acquire discernment. Al tishkach ve'altet me'imrei fi. Do not forget, do not swerve from my words. Al ta'azveha v'tishmereka. Do not forsake her, i.e. chokhmah, and she will guard you. Ehaveha, love her, v'titz reka, and she will protect you. I want to point something out having nothing to do with Mishle, but having to do with a word, a pronunciation of a word. Bold. I want just the letter, Einstein. Doesn't work. Okay, whatever. You'll notice that at the end of the word here, there's a chaf sofit with a dot, with a dagesh, and a kamatz. When you end a word with a chaf sofit, with both the dot and the kamatz, it's pronounced ka, not cha, as if it were spelled with a kaf hey. So v'tish mereka and v'titza reka. Just as an aside, you should know that. Okay. So what do these psukim mean? First of all, what does it mean, k'neh? We have to understand what this word k'neh means. Liknot in regular modern Hebrew means to acquire. Ani holech liknot cola. I'm going to purchase or to buy Coke, whatever it might be, the kind you drink. I need to make that clear. Anyways, so liknot or k'neh, kinyan, is an acquisition. Koneh is a person who's the purchaser. You go on and on and on with all what the word means. Yet, we see it with a different meaning, a much deeper meaning. And we see, for example, Pirkei Avot, we have the words, Ukneh lecha chaver. You should acquire for yourself, purchase, it sounds like, purchase for yourself a friend. That sounds like, hey, listen, I don't have too many friends in the neighborhood. Here's $50. Would you be my friend? It's not going to last very long. Spends us $50 and friendship's over. So what does that mean? Knei lecha chaver, to buy yourself a required friend. I've used this example thousands of times, but it works here again. I walk into the makolet, I take a bag of chips, and I walk out. What's wrong with that story or that picture? That I stole. What did I not do? I didn't do an act of acquisition. Those chips belong to Mickey or Mayan 2000 or Yochananov, whoever it belongs to. It doesn't belong to Zev Chandler. I take the chips, I walk out of the store, I could be arrested for shoplifting, for theft. What did I do instead? I gave the man or the woman 5 shekel, and then I take the chips. Now I walk out of the store, it's mine. What's the difference? All I did was give him a piece of metal. Because what does that metal represent? It's the act of acquisition. So if I walk out of the store with those chips, and someone takes them out of my hands and runs away, he stole from me. If someone walks into the store and I have them in my shopping cart, and someone takes those chips and runs out of the store, they stole from the store. The main thing that the determining factor from whom he is stealing is where the last point of acquisition was. So if the store owner purchased it to sell and it was stolen from him, his. I purchased it, now it's mine, and therefore he stole from me. What does that mean, though? What does it mean? Liknot, it means it has a shayachut. It has a connection, a relationship, and that in quotes, obviously, between me and that object. This is my phone. If you take it from me, you have stolen from me. If you take it from the store where I bought it, before I bought it, then you have stolen from the store. So now with that bit of information, let's talk. So and becomes a part of my life and my ownership, so to speak. When we say Knei lecha chaver, it does not mean to go buy a friend, but it means to have a friend that's so close, it's like a possession, in quotes, become a part of you. They're part of your life. There's someone you could rely on, someone they could talk to. Same thing when it comes now to Knei chokhmah and Knei bina. Vina, actually. That the repetition, it could, by the way, Shlomo HaMelech could have said, Knei chokhmah uvina. Acquire chokhmah and bina. Why is he in Knei chokhmah, Knei vina? Why does he repeat the word Knei or liknot? The Gemara in Brachot tells us it contrasts Torah and gold. The material wealth can be inherited. Torah needs to be acquired. The Torah can't, or Tanakh can't bold a word. It can't underline a word. So sometimes it uses various, I don't like to use the word literary terms or literary actions, but it does. So in order for us to understand something that's heavily important in some area, or it wants to get a message across, it uses either a repetition of a word, or it uses a repetition of a phrase to say this is like saying, okay, highlight, bold, and big neon lights flashing on it. So a person can inherit material wealth. When I won't use myself, Joe Schmo's parent dies, they inherit, $1,000 worth of gold, which is about 3/4 of an ounce nowadays. So that they inherited, they didn't have to do anything, nothing. Someone else had to. They had to die. That Joe Schmo inherits. Torah, when that, say, for example, that you have someone who's a great Rosh Hashiva, a great Talmud Chacham, someone who's absolutely off the charts brilliant, passes away. And his son or his daughter, they weren't the brightest crayon in the box. When that parent died, it's not like all of a sudden that chokhmah, that wisdom and Torah and all that knowledge, suddenly now is in the brains of the child. It doesn't work that way. Material wealth can be inherited and Torah has to be acquired. And therefore, when it says Knei Chokhmah, Knei Binah, it's really stressing that point that we have to be proactive in order to really try to make that acquisition, to make it a part of us. But the effort alone is not enough. We have to move from acquisition to, as I said before, relationship. So it says in the second part, Al ta'azveha v'tishmereka. Don't forsake her, the Torah and wisdom and chokhmah and binah, v'tishmereka. She will guard you. Ehaveha v'titzareka. Love her and she will protect you. What does that sound like? It sounds like a relationship, right? A husband and wife, a child, a parent, child, siblings, because it's exactly what Shlomo HaMelech is trying to get across here. We can acquire, let's say, for example, I buy a sefer and I read it and I learn it. I'll remember something, maybe I won't remember something. Does it become a part of me? It becomes a part of me when I really make sure it becomes a part of me. And when I use the lessons I may have learned from that, and then maybe I teach from that as well. Torah is beloved to those who guard it. You have to guard it, and by guarding it, it guards you, it protects you. If you possess Torah, you might lose it. When you love Torah, your relationship to Torah is protected by that love. Again, I don't know the percentage, but whatever I have learned in my life, there's a good percentage that I don't remember. And that's just the way it is. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's not a good thing, because if it was really, I really stuck with it, with everything I've learned, then you do what's called, they talk about in yeshivot, called chazara. What's chazara? So let's say you learn today a page of Gemara. So tomorrow, before you go further, you go back to this page and you learn it. There's the Gemara as many places, this expression that says, Eino doma misha shana pirko me'apam. You cannot compare someone who reviewed their learning 100 times, to one who learned it 101 times. So Tanya has a whole thing on that also. Really, there's a tachlis difference between 100 times and 101. If I learn Breshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz 100 times, but I learn 101 times, now all of a sudden it's much better. You can't compare. So if you want to know that, then you go back to Tanya. I can help you find it. But the idea is repetition and going over something. And a person who has, let's say they sell diamonds, and they have an envelope with many, many diamonds. I don't think that they purchase the diamonds from the wholesaler or from the source, put them in the envelope, and they don't even, okay, one day a guy calls them, okay, we could pick one out and send it to them. They're looking at them, they're checking them, making sure they have them. It's very precious, very special. But there's reciprocity also. If you don't abandon, it's important from these two psukim. If you don't abandon Torah, Torah guards you. If you love Torah, the Torah will preserve you and keep you. Torah is not passive content. It responds to how it's treated. That's a pretty strong statement. I knew a woman who was not religious, who was trying to become more religious. And I have found, unfortunately, that some people in that position right away jump to Kabbalistic stuff. The Kabbalah, they take the English books, I'm a Kabbalah, and then all of a sudden they're turned on to Kabbalah. I said, start with Aleph Bet, literally. Start there first. She said, this woman I think of said that she would go it was in the United States, wasn't here. She would go to the Kabbalah Center in LA, I think it was in LA, and she learned that if she opens books of the Zohar and she scans the words with her eyes, it already will have an impression on her. It'll make her a different person. I don't know. It sounds like voodoo to me. It's actually the word's voodoo, not voodoo. But that's okay. Is it true. I never asked anybody, but it just does not sound right with me because it doesn't fit into what we consider this mold of what Torah is not passive. I can't, by the way, a person also, just as an aside, if you daven with your eyes only, just like reading with your eyes and don't say the words, that's not davening. You have to actually say the words. I'm just mentioning that as a side having nothing to do with this. But Torah responds to how we relate to Torah. How do we see what's the model for that? Relationships. If I never tell my wife I love her, I never say thank you, I never show gratitude, I don't talk to her, I don't acknowledge her, what kind of marriage is that? What kind of marriage is that? It's terrible. If the other hand, I love you, I thank you for everything, I'm here for you, you're here for me, it's a partnership, we work together, all these words, it's very different. And the marriage reacts, the marriage as a structure reacts differently. And the same thing is true with the Torah. Next couple psukim. Reshit chokhmah kinei chokhmah. This sounds like a circular logic. The beginning of wisdom is to acquire wisdom. Well, what? Beginning of wisdom is to acquire wisdom. Uv'chol kinyancha kinei vina. And in all of your acquisitions, acquire discernment. Okay, what's he talking about here? It's almost a paradoxical pasuk in Mishle. It's probably one of the more paradoxical. We'll come across some over the course of the next however long we take to learn Mishle. The Radak explains what this pasuk means. He says that the beginning of wisdom is recognizing that wisdom needs to be pursued above all else. It almost sounds like you need wisdom to acquire wisdom. There's a paint drawing. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Well, because I'm going to put it on the screen with a different screen share. Just a second. Because there's actually a Torah example of this, but I'm going to give you a non-Torah example. Visit. Okay, let me share this. It just popped in my head. I figured I'll do this now. 50 points if you can tell me what's the Torah example I could have given for this. If you know, message me. Okay, this is Escher. Escher was a genius in art and math. And his drawings, his charcoal drawings, you could stare at literally for hours because he has like certain ones where he looks like the body of water or stream of water is in the same plane as someone walking, and all of a sudden it's above them. A ladder's inside the house, and you look from a different perspective, it's outside the house. This is one of his more famous ones. It's a hand drawing a hand, which is drawing a hand, which is drawing a hand. So how did this hand happen to come into being to draw this hand, right? So this is circular logic. If you say you need wisdom to acquire wisdom, well, how did you acquire wisdom? Well, because you need the wisdom. Where'd you get it? Well, that's what this reminds me of. I can actually make it a little bigger there. So I'm going to, if no one's going to message, I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. There are 10 things created, Ben Hashmashot, in Pirkei Avot. I think it's in chapter 5, or it's in 5, I think. 10 things created, Ben Hashmashot, between at dusk on Friday, the first week after of creation. One of those things is listed there, either the 10 or the ones that say, oh, and some say some other things. I forgot which, if it's the 10 or the other ones. But there's something there. That's the only hint I'm going to give you. So Zeal Gemor, go and do that on your own. Okay, so let's go back to the text. Okay, so we're back to this pasuk. Let's see what this is talking about. So again, the Radak says that what it means is that before knowledge comes valuing. What does it mean to value something? If I were to give a child, say a 4-year-old, a child, a very expensive watch, not to wear, to use, just give it to them. Give them a Rolex, gold-plated Rolex. I probably have 5 or 6 lying around the house, I'm sure. How are they going to treat it? They're going to treat it no differently than a toy, because to them, there's no value. They don't understand the value of that. If I have a friend and I say, listen, you're the best friend I've ever seen other than my own spouse, I really want to thank you. Here's a gold-plated Rolex. How are they going to treat it? How are they going to hold on to it? What are they going to do with it? Just the actual giving of that item to the person speaks volumes about that friendship and the relationship. Same thing is true. In order to acquire wisdom, you have to first give it a value. You have to understand that it's very important, because for knowledge, before actually getting to the point to acquire the wisdom, Reshit Chochmah, says the Radak, is know that there's a Chochmah, know that there is this Torah, know that there is the wisdom behind it, and then Knei Chochmah, then go out, pursue it, and inculcate it to your life. The Malbim adds another layer. He says Reshit does not mean a chronological order like the Radak says. He says first evaluate it and then acquire it. But he says it's a principle that wisdom begins when a person subordinates all other acquisitions to status, wealth, money, religious externals, and says Chokhmah comes first. So that Reshit Chokhmah is not as far as, okay, first you have to recognize its importance and then you want to acquire it. It's that Reshit in this case means it should be to you over and above every other thing you quote own that's a part of you. The Torah, the Chokhmah of the Torah is number one. That's the most important possession. So I may say I have my house, my Sfarim. I love my Sfarim. I love my house. I love the furniture. I'm not going to talk human beings now, just things, my material things, my bank account. I'd like the money to have my wallet. I'm not saying it like that, but you know what I mean. What, though, is my most cherished possession? It's not my photo albums. It's not the Humashim or the Gemaras or my phone or mouse. It's the Chokhmah. It's the Torah that I've acquired, that we've acquired over time. It's that which is the Sfarim that are the Torah itself as well. And that's what the Malbim is saying, that it comes first as far as in the Seder Adifiyut in English, that is in my list of priorities, let's say. There's a better way to say it. And then he says, everything you own has to serve the acquisition of Binah, or ultimately it will own you. What does that mean? This is the Malbim, that with all your possessions, you also have to look at them with Binah, with the discernment, acquire them. There's no reason you can't. You're allowed to have stuff in life as long as it's not the most important thing in your life. Stuff is just fleeting. Well, so that says, there are many psukim that talk about this idea in Tanakh that, when you leave this, when a person leaves this world, you're not taking anything with you. And that's not what accompanies you. It's your Torah and your mitzvot that accompany a person to the next world. So that you have to recognize that when you acquire things, it should also be done with bina, with seichel, is another word to use here, with just common sense and intellect. I have a friend. He's not like this anymore. And I promise I'm not making this up. I have a very nice sized library, Baruch Hashem. He had a decent sized library, not giant, but a decent size. And I was with him once at a Sfarim store. And he said, "Oh, it's a green book. I need one of those." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I don't have enough green on my shelves." He would buy them because they like the balance of the colors. I said, "Okay, that's not how you buy Sfarim, dude." In any case, Torah is not a value among other values. It's not like, okay, we have Torah that's valuable, we have our money that's valuable, we have our possessions that are valuable, we have our house that's valuable. It's the lens by which we see everything else. It's that which can't be taken away from you. It can't be taken away from you. God forbid a person can have a fire and lose everything. God forbid a person can be robbed and can lose everything. God forbid, the whole list goes on and on. But if you're robbed, they can't rob your chokhmah. If there's a fire, God forbid, in a person's house, your chokhmah doesn't burn down. Your Torah physically might, God forbid, your Sfarim, your whatever else you might have, notes. But what's inside of you is literally a part of you. We've talked about this also, this idea from Tanya, that why is the Torah's Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? Why is it that Torah is equivalent to all of the mitzvot? Because every other mitzvah you do externally, you do it with your body somehow or another, with your mouth, your hands, your feet, nose, when it comes to mitzvot, they're external. They affect your neshama, but still it's all external. Torah is the only one that, like food, becomes a part of you. Torah becomes a part of you. It literally becomes a part of your brain trust and what you have in your head. That can't be taken away from you. Unfortunately, we know that it can be taken away from you in a different way. Not you, God forbid, but from people. It comes to Alzheimer's, dementia, and how does that work and how's that fair? Don't look at me. Talk to the boss. I don't mean my wife. I mean Hashem. Anyways, let's look at a couple more psukim. Salsaleha utromemeka, hug her to you, and she will exalt you. Techabedcha ki techabkena, she will bring you honor if you embrace her. Notice the phrase in the next pasuk as well, that it sounds so much like husband and wife. It sounds like spouses, because again, it's trying to use the imagery of the relationship between husband and wife, which is the closest bond two people can have that were not related to each other before. I'm not talking about your parent and your sibling. Two people who are not related to each other, now they joined as one. There's a great book that's written in the late 90s called 1 + 1 = 1. It's about how they become one flesh. Anyways, so that's the imagery here. So the second pasuk, Titen roshcha livyatchen, ateret tiferet magen. I can't say the word, it's tough. She will adorn your head with a graceful wreath, crown you with a glorious diadem, a glorious crown. Okay, what is this? What's going on here? We'll take a couple words on these psukim, then we'll stop. The imagery becomes, what's the difference between these few psukim before about acquiring wisdom, making it a part of you, guarding it will guard you, and now what's happening here? These two psukim move to a different level of royalty, a sounds of being regal. Salsalah explains the Mitzudat David, Mitzudat Sion. It means to elevate. It means to turn over, to engage. In modern Hebrew, salsalah is the little basket. But it's talking about the Mitzudat Sion is telling us that when you need to constantly engage Torah. Torah cannot be something you look at, oh, it's Shabbat morning when I'm in show, I'll listen to Kriyat Torah. It can't be that I'll look for a 2 second of our Torah, and that'll be my whole Torah for the week. It has to be part of your day-to-day life. Now, first of all, it is when you say Shema, okay? We know there's a mitzvah, V'agita bo yomam v'layla. You have to toil and go over and learn Torah all day. 99% of people can't do that. In the basic way, you're able to say that idea is you do Shema in the morning and Shema in the evening. That's V'agita bo yomam v'layla. But it doesn't exempt you from doing more than that. I've told many people I have a doctorate, maybe a postdoc in time wasting. I do. I could probably write a thesis on it. But at least I hope that my priorities and my friends and people I associate with, the priorities of the Torah is a real part of life. Someone asked me, and I do not mean this in any way, shape, or form to be casting aspersions at any community. Yeah, the kinds of questions, what's the difference between the questions I get here and the questions I used to get at Chutz La'aretz? I said they're day and night different. I can tell you in 10 years in Chicago, not one person asked me a question about Tanakh. Messaged me or called me out with a question on Tanakh, not once. I can tell you there were various topics I was never asked about. And here, all the time, different levels of questions. Maybe it never occurs to someone, maybe they wouldn't call the rabbi with the question, so I don't know, whatever it might be. But in certain, not where I come from, but certain communities, the Torah may be relegated to the back seat. When it's needed, it's dusted off and brought out to the front for show and then put away. I'm not saying that about the community I came from, Chas v'Shalom, but it's like that in some communities. Torah is meant to be struggled over and reviewed and worked with and constantly turned over. That's what Sion says. This is what that word means here. But the culmination of that struggle and turning it over and elevating Torah is not power. What is it? It's tiferet and it's chen. Chen and tiferet. Chen is grace. Tiferet is glory. That's probably a good way to translate it. Midrash Mishle says that the Torah grants grace that can't be fabricated. You can't go and buy grace. You can't buy chen. It's something you earn by who you are. I'm sure you've all had a situation where you meet someone for the first time, and with the first 10 seconds, you can't stand the person. It's just the way they say something like, "Yeah, good morning to you too. Yes, have a good day," whatever it might be. And next they had a bad day. That's just their demeanor. And then the other person, I'll give you an example. Great example from today. I have a very big problem coming with people, schnorrers coming into shul collecting money, especially during davening. It's very much against it. Whatever. Today, this morning, for the first time in 28 years, 30 years, a shul came into the shul. Every person he went by, even before he started collecting, looked like a smile and looked like Boker Tov. But I didn't give him, but that's a different story. I have my own reasons. But he was a person who showed some joy in life. Like, it wasn't like, give me my money so I can get out of here, go to the next show. There was some smile there. And that's the kind of person, I think, that, again, I wasn't favored towards what he was collecting for, if it was legitimate, but it was nice. It was nice to see. It doesn't cost anything to be nice to people. And that cannot be fabricated. That has to come naturally. It's not it's not like an external polish. You're polishing up. Okay, now I have chen, now I have grace, now I have glory. It's inner. It radiates in from the inside to the outside. And again, you want to surround yourself with those kind of people, and not people who are going to drag you down. Okay, we're going to stop here. And next week, Bezrat Hashem, I'll give a little sikum or summary of the first 9 psukim to kind of just put it all together. And we're going to do the Bezrat Hashem, the next part of the chapter. So that's my story. I wish you all a good evening, a Shavua Tov, and Bezrat Hashem, Chodesh Tov. Remember, it says that Mishanichnas Adar Marbin Besimcha, Mishanichnas Av Ma'atim Besimcha. When you enter Adar, you increase your joy. When you enter Av, you decrease your joy. The implication of both statements is there should always be joy in your life. Just a matter if you do more or you do less. So always you should have background with some form of simcha. Have a good evening.